it's not vlogmas if you don't get me from this angle. If you can already guess it, we're gonna be making some dinner. I'm making some stuffed pasta shells, which I haven't made in forever. Yeah, I'm making stuffed pasta shells, which I haven't made in forever, and honestly they're really, really easy to make. I'm waiting for water to boil so I can boil my shells, and then I'm going to kind of saute some spinach, mushrooms and stuff, so that way I can use all of that to like stuff the shells. And to be quite honest with you all, I don't know what to talk about today. I honestly for a hot second thought I messed up on my vlogmas days, and I don't know why I thought yesterday was like day 10 or 11, which would make no sense, but yesterday was day 9, which means today's day 10, tomorrow's day 11, and then Christmas Eve is going to be day 12. And I'm not entirely sure what to talk about with all of you. So I just figured we'd chat while I cook and just catch up on life. Maybe something we could talk about is potential, maybe places I would like to visit on vacation. I feel like I always talk about like places I want to travel to. I kind of tend to go to the same places a lot, but it would be nice to just kind of sit and think about places I could go to or will go to one day if I want to. So thinking in like the United States, I think it would be really fun to like go to some of the major national parks. I think that would be really cool. I don't know, maybe going on like a hike. I don't really hike, but I think it would be fun to maybe try and see what I could do there. I know in one of my earlier vlogs I talked about how I wanted to go to Maine because I heard it's like the best of both worlds, where you get like beach and you can go hiking, and then there's like good seafood and all of that. I would love to go to Yellowstone. I think that would be really, really cool. And then also, ooh, the Redwood Forest. That would also be really cool. There's something like so ethereal about that place. I feel like it just doesn't feel real, even though it definitely is. And I think seeing that would be really, really cool. Internationally, one of the places I've always said I've wanted to go is to go to Japan. I would absolutely love to. I think it would be so cool to just be able to spend like a week or two there and go to some of the major like hotspots and temples and try their foods and, you know, see all the sightseeing and see all the things that there is to see. I'd love to go to Thailand, Italy. I would love, love, love to go back to France, to go to this like seaside town called Saint Malo. I went there when I was in high school, and I can't describe it. Like, I can only describe it as being like one of the most magical places I've ever been to. Like, it's a seaside town. Apparently it's like, or at least when I was there, they were saying that it's like one of the last places where they like teach their children to man ships and like fleets and stuff, and that by like a certain age, you know, their children are commanding like shipping like boats and stuff. And I thought that was so cool. And it was also neat because when I was there, you could see like the little kid boats like out on the water because they were like practicing and stuff, so that was really cool. But I'd love to go back there. It was just like so surreal. It just seemed like one of those places that like even though you're there, like it doesn't feel like it exists, but it absolutely does. I would love to go to a nicer resort and go to Montego Bay in Jamaica, or just like, you know, a nice resort in Jamaica. I went to Punta Cana earlier this year, and it really just like, it was great, but I think things could have been better. So I think it would be interesting to go somewhere nicer. I think my biggest complaint about Punta Cana was the food. Obviously can't control the weather, it was super hot, but the food would really, really, really could have been better. So that would be nice, going somewhere else. Maybe even in the winter too, so that way I can enjoy like the warmth and the heat. Oh, that's something else I really want to do. My boss recently just went to all the Christmas markets in Europe and did like a tour. So she went to like a couple different countries and saw all the Christmas markets. I would love to do that. Christmas and the holidays, like the wintry time and snow and all that, it's my favorite. Like, I just can't describe what it is. I love the lights. I love the homey feeling, the sense of like closeness that it brings. And I think going through all the Christmas markets would be such a surreal thing to do. So yeah, Amsterdam, I'd like to go to Amsterdam. That would be really neat. I think that's so far all I can think of. So if you guys have places that you plan on traveling to or want to travel to, I would like to know. I have to cook spinach real quick and then I'll be back. Okay, my pasta shells are in the oven, and I'll show you guys what they look like when they're done. But I thought of something else that we could talk about. So in like one of those Christmas songs that we always hear, it's like there's the verse that says, "And scary ghost stories and tales of the glory from Christmases long, long ago." Well, I don't have particularly scary ghost stories about Christmas from long, long ago, but I have ghost stories. If maybe we could turn this into a little bit of a Christmas spooky chat. I figured, yeah, I could share some of my own personal ghost encounters, if you want to call them that. So the first encounter I would say that I ever had paranormal wise was when I was a kid. We had like moved to our new house because I was born in Florida. We moved to Pennsylvania, and we were sitting like, I don't know, we were outside doing whatever. My dad had a ladder set up in front of the house, and I was sitting on it just kind of like watching, you know, from the height of the ladder. the properties that were like next door. And for some reason, I have this very extraordinarily strong urge to just be like, I should move down a rung on this ladder. And I did. And the moment that I did, I heard a click above my head. And it turns out that it was a stray bullet from a hunter, which if I had been sitting up where I was, I would have been shot in the head. And I honestly thought I kind of dreamt this for a while. Also hydrate, I know you need to. And I would like mention it to my dad later in life, and he's like, yeah, no, that you didn't dream that. Like that was 100% real. We had to call cops and like they had to investigate and all that other kind of stuff. So that I would consider that paranormal-esque in my opinion. And the reason why I say that is because the house that I mostly grew up in my life was, in my opinion, kind of haunted. We would always hear really weird things, and like specifically we had an addition that was built on to the original house that my parents built, and our room was in this addition. And I distinctly remember being a kid and being in my like brand new room, and all of a sudden it was like somebody had like a flashlight and they were just running through like all the windows outside, like shining them in. Now there's a couple of problems with that. The first is my room was on the second story of our house, so like no one's up there with flashlights. The second problem is that the way that our house was, there's no roads that would have like come right by our house. Like our house was like set back, our house was on a corner, and the one part of the corner was a giant field. And the only lights that you could see from cars were cars that were coming down like from the big road like that was behind us. So the intensity of those lights like makes zero sense, and especially because they went like through each side of my room, because like the back half of our house, I don't know how to describe it to you, was kind of like an L, and like my room was here on the L, so like there's just land here. And for second story, like it with the speed, like that's not possible. So that freaked me out so bad that I didn't sleep in my room for years, to be quite honest. It took a long time for me to like be comfortable sleeping in there. I would hear voices outside to the point where I would call my dad and be like, I think there's someone out there, can you just do me a favor and like walk around and just double check? And he would, and there would be nobody there. We also had like this giant ladder because, you know, we had a 2-story house that my dad would use to change the light bulbs, and I swear to you, I would hear people moving it, which got me nervous because at that point I was like back in my room and I was like, oh my God, like what if somebody's coming to like mess with me, blah, blah, blah. And I would tell my dad, he'd check, ladder hadn't moved, there's nothing there. One of the more distinct memories I have is like in my room itself, we would hear, like if I was downstairs, I could hear, it almost sounded like somebody was doing laps like in the upper part of the house. And like my sister would be up there sleeping, and then she'd come downstairs and be like, what in the flying hell were you doing? And she'd be like, I just woke up from a nap. But it sounded like somebody was like flipping furniture and jumping up and down and all that stuff. And I've had people like hear that and agree that like that's what it sounded like. We've heard our dead dogs bark quite literally, like very distinctly and very clearly. So my parents no longer live in that house. They moved out. And while they were moving out, I was like going back and like cleaning out some of my stuff from my childhood room and things like that. While they were there, they weren't there and transitioning between houses or whatever. And I distinctly remember that I had gone to the house. It was by myself. It was in the afternoon, and I was upstairs, and like my sister and I shared a room, and then there was the hall, and then it was my parents' room, and there was stuff in both I was walking through, but whatever. I came upstairs and I went in my parents' room first, and everything was knocked over. And my dad was in Florida at that point. And I like mean everything. Like there was trash thrown everywhere. It was really weird because there was like a blanket that was all spread out on the floor with almost like somebody had made like a pallet bed out of blankets, which is weird because there was no furniture up there that you would sleep on. Nobody was sleeping in the house, and my dad wasn't there, and he would sleep on the recliner if he was there, like in the living room if he was there overnight while in between houses. And there was like a little closet that I had put like a desk in to make like a mini office. That chair was completely knocked over. All the stuff that was in that room was just completely thrown around. And then I went to check my room, and the same thing had happened. Like I was packing stuff up in like trunks and things like that. That was thrown everywhere. There was clothing everywhere. There was trash everywhere. And then the creepiest thing was there was these giant stuffed like teddy bears that my uncle had sent to me when I was like a kid. And it was like on the floor because I wasn't planning on keeping it. And it was sitting on top of the old dresser that we used to have like in my room. And I was so freaked out, I just left. And I called my dad and I was like, okay, so my dad has been known to 1000% like play like jokes on me. When I was younger, my dad got this new car and we would be like driving, and then all of a sudden the radio would change and I would be like, oh my God, that's so weird. And it would happen at like the same spot on this road where he would do it. So we started calling it ghost radio. And then only later in life did he tell me that we had just gotten, like, the car that we had was just like fancy enough that it had like buttons on the steering wheel, which was not normal at that time, to like change the radio station. So he would just change it and then make me think that the car was doing it itself. So like, he's been known to trick me. That it's confirmed. And so I called him and I was like, I need you to be like dead serious with me because I'm so freaked out. And like, you know, if I tell my dad that I'm freaked out and I'm scared, like, he's gonna pay attention. He's not gonna mess with me. And he was like, well, what's going on? What happened? I told him everything about the house and he was like, you're joking. And I was like, I'm not joking, are you? Because if you're playing a prank on me, like, I need to know now because I am so scared. I don't want to walk back in that house. And he was like, why would I do that? At that point, they were getting the house ready to sell. And I mean, he's like, why would I make a mess? Why would I throw trash everywhere? Like, we're trying to clean it to get rid of it. We don't, like, why would I make a mess? And I was like, you're not wrong, but like, what's going on then? And we've yet to ever figure out what was going on. Like, for some reason, like, we maybe suspected like some random squatter, but like, why would a squatter be in that house? It would make no sense. And like, I didn't even live in like a populated area. I lived in a pretty like I lived in a little bit of a rural area, and like rural enough, like there's no sidewalks, there's no street lights, there's none of that. But to this day, like, I cannot explain what happened there, and it like gives me the chills when I think about it, because my dad, like, to this day completely maintains that he had nothing to do with it, and that, like, I believe him. Like, why would he trash the house? Like, for what reason? What would that accomplish? If you're looking for something, you could call me and you're trying to sell the house. So like, if people were coming through with a realtor for like showings, you wouldn't want that to look like that messy. But yeah, so that's all the ghost stories that I can think of like right now. But if you have any ghost stories, I'd like to know. But I think I'm going to cut the vlog off there. And I know this wasn't like super festive, but I figured we just chat and hang out and talk. And I thank you guys for watching day 10 of the 12 days of vlogmas, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for day 11. Christmas is on Monday.